Hi, welcome to this podcast episode of CinePresto. We don't have video today, but it's okay because if you close your eyes, you'll just see Goku. Today we have Sean Schemmel, right?
Yep, Sean Schemmel, yes, that's my
And along with me today, we have my co-hosts Roy and Pradyumna, right?
Yep. Hello.
Roy and who?
Roy?
And who?
My name is Pradyumna. It's
Pradyumna. How do you spell that?
Pradyumna.
Pradyumna.
You can also call me Brad.
But I like it. I like unique names.
Yeah, me too. I just take the time to learn them and learn what they mean.
Pradyumna, Jamaica. Ooh, I wanna take. Sorry. Now you guys are gonna sing that every time
We're
you say
gonna
his
go
name.
forever. Yeah, no, we're never letting him live that down. No, seriously, it's not happening at all. Well, I've seen you actually several times for the last year and a half and everything. I hung out with you a little bit at the.
We did.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I don't remember. Was it dark?
It was the San Diego Comic-Con party, the Dragon Ball party.
Oh, I apologize if I don't remember you. Maybe your hair's
good.
different, or it was dark, or I was drunk, or something.
Yeah, it was dark, and everyone.
I don't drink a lot, but at those I'll have a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a drinker.
Yeah, this is before you hobbled over to the VIP section.
Oh yeah, well, because I'll just get I'll just get mobbed. So I appreciate it, but I gotta go.
No, you're great there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing I do love is like always your energy and enthusiasm for the original Japanese version. So my first question actually has to do with the way you guys approach the dub and everything. In a recent episode, I heard this was your idea to sing the original Dragon Ball theme song.
Totally my idea. Yeah, totally my idea.
So I was wondering actually, in the last 20 years that you've been doing this, how has the approach to dubbing the show changed over the years? And for you, it's like, when do you guys feel the need to add the humor that wasn't?
Yeah, the last two interviews we've been talking about this, and again, I want to. It's something I've been meaning to address for a while because I've been, I see a lot of this dub versus sub business, and I've spent a lot of time analyzing it, and I kind of came up with an answer a few weeks ago where I think it makes sense. I don't believe that dubs are inferior to subs. I think they're apples and oranges, and I think people who think they can hear the difference don't, because I was an ADR director for 3 years. I listened to a lot of Japanese seiyuu. I understand, and even when I felt like I knew if it was a good actor or not, I don't really know. I don't speak Japanese. I don't live in Japanese culture. To really know, you'd have to grow up in Japan, know Japanese, then grow up in America at the same time, know English, and be able to really compare. Then you'd have to have an artistic sense of it. So this idea that dubs are somehow less than, and that the original language is always superior, to me is just not true. And what proves that is then I'd make the argument that the first cast of the Romeo and Juliet plays, when Shakespeare cast it, would be the best cast, and no one's been better ever since. Like, that's completely ridiculous to me. So, in fact, I would argue that maybe, for all we know, if we could break the wall of subjectivity, the Italian dub's the best. I don't know. It really is about the audience and the performance. So, if all the Americans got together and say, "Wow, the dub is better than the original," well, that's not necessarily true. And if all the original guys are like, "Whoa, we're the originals, so we're the best," I'm like, well, that's not necessarily true either. So it's so apples and oranges. I grow irritated with the disrespect that dubs get because all the actors we work with are talented and skilled and as every bit as good as any other actor in any other language, as far as I'm concerned. So there's that. Now, when I pay homage and give respect to the original, I'm talking about the source material and canon, and that's no disrespect to the original cast. They are amazing, and I know several of those cast members, and they're awesome. But I'm not going to say I'm better or worse than anybody in that regard. So I'm just trying to dispel this notion that somehow the original cast performance is somehow holy and perfect. Certainly. And everything else is less than. Yeah.
That's another thing too. You guys get a little more time because, they're working under a tight production schedule for the most part, from what we receive here. And you guys have a few months. You get to see the material.
No. Here's how it goes. Oh no,
okay.
No.
Teach me.
When I show up to work, that's the first time I'm seeing it. It's the first time I'm seeing the script. Okay. They might actually have more time if they're doing a prelay show. I get more time on an American prelay, and if they do a prelay like we do in America, they get a little more time. They might even see the storyboard, but they don't see the animation like we have an advantage that we see the animation fully finished. So that gives me a lot of emotional cues that they might not have. One of the things that's frustrating to me is when I'm doing a prelay show, and it might frustrate the Japanese cast, is there's this trend when we're doing a prelay show where we will record all the lines, and then they'll ask for a bunch of reactions. And then they'll animate it all, and I find a lot of times, mostly with the reactions, that the way you have an animator who's not an audio guy interpreting my acting, okay? And not that I have to be an animator to interpret something visual, but it's much easier to interpret something visual when you see a big explosion or you see a big yell or you see a facial expression than it is to interpret sound and nuance, especially if you don't have an ear for it. And I've noticed there's some people that are very talented at audio and some talented at very visual and some that are both. But most of the time, most animators aren't necessarily great at interpreting audio. And even happened to me on this Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka thing I did where I watched my performance, the facial expressions not being what I meant when I was acting. And I'm like, this guy's not interpreting me, right? It wasn't bad, but it wasn't worth the money.
Right.
So we do have an advantage in the sense that, especially for facial expressions and for power-ups and energy, it's very obvious what I need to do. And a lot of times I'll see a line and then the face won't match, Goku's face won't match it, and I'll change the line because I go, that doesn't make sense. And then we'll check it in Japanese, and usually the line doesn't match in Japanese. I always have a Japanese script in the booth with me because I want to keep canon correct, and I want Goku's character to be correct because we wasn't exactly right at all on the original Z. I think we did a pretty good, almost solid 100% job, close to it on Kai. I'm really proud of Kai.
Yeah.
And on the games are a little trickier. So I don't know what the original question was, but I'm covering a lot of things.
I was going to bring it back to
bring it back.
The ultimate goal of both, whatever dub that you're watching is that it's really just like, to bring this to another audience. And I think that in that sense, every single dub does achieve that goal. It has a global audience for like a reason.
Yeah.
Each of the dubs does their own job. And to continue that, my friend Roy has another question to follow up with that.
Yeah, so it kind of ties into this idea that...
Oh, you have a powerful voice, man.
Oh.
Yeah, wow, you're like really... Yeah, man, you should try some commercial voiceover. Yeah,
I tell him this all the time.
I got this a lot, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, take a voiceover class, man. You got a really resonant, deep voice, yeah.
Won't you?
Dude, I'm a 20-year veteran at this, and I'm telling you to try it. I don't know how good you act, but at least take a class.
Yeah.
This is true. This is the first professional that told me this.
It's very resonant. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's interesting when you're talking about, like, when Shakespeare was casting things years ago.
It's a weird metaphor, but yeah.
Right, and... there's a lot of like contextual things going on, like when you're trying to dub it over in a different, different region. Are there any like things specifically within like the Dragon Ball universe that you do to localize that a little more for English audiences?
Well, it's usually just with humor. Humor is the one thing. Japanese humor and American humor can be very different. And there are some things in Japanese that I don't think are supposed to be funny that we find very humorous, and vice versa. There are a lot of Japanese game shows I find very humorous, which I can't tell if they're supposed to be humorous or not, but I think they're funny. And there are a lot of things in Japanese humor to me that are very non sequitur because I don't get the culture that maybe a Japanese person would get, that I find very, very funny. So we're really, as I was explaining to the previous interviewer, I picture... Once we get to what the emotional note is supposed to be, I picture some Japanese kid watching the show and he's going through this emotional ride. I imagine what that might be like, and when I glean what the emotional note is supposed to be, especially if I'm ADR directing, or if I'm writing a script for when I was directing for Michael, we wrote all our own scripts. I want to preserve that original Japanese meaning, but I really want to make it palatable and that kid has that same emotional experience and that it's equally emotionally impactful using my best wits and my best knowledge. And that's why I demand very pure Japanese scripts. But the problem is when you get a very pure Japanese scripts, a lot of time, if you don't have a really truly person from Japan who really knows, and you've got a guy who got his doctorate in Japanese and he knows the language really well, there's some nuances that get missed. And I had a problem when I was directing a show called Samurai Deeper Kyo where the translation was just not, it was, there's two histories in there, actual Japanese history and fake Japanese history. And I kept warning the producer, I'm like, look, if we don't get this actual Japanese history exactly right versus the fake Jap, we're going to paint ourselves into a corner.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up quitting after the first volume because that would not get fixed. And I'm like, I'm not going to screw this up.
Wow, yeah.
And so... it's very important that you get the right meaning. And I was on the phone with the translator all the time, but what does that mean in this? And what does that word mean? And I'm always very particular. So, and I'm real sensitive to language as it relates to Goku in particular for the set of rules that I've tried to glean from Akira Toriyama and from the scripts of what Goku's character is. So that sometimes I'll see an adaptation that makes Goku seem egoic or makes him seem like a proud Saiyan warrior, which he's not. He's got hit on the head as a kid. I interpret it from a ancient Asian history sense of Goku loosely translating means something like the master of knowing nothing. I think it's a metaphor for the beginner's mind and enlightenment, and that he's always in that kid mind and always in that beginner's mind. So it's not like he wants to win to show you I'm the best. He's not like that. He just wants to fight. He just loves fighting, and so I want to keep that pure spirit alive. Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
you seem like you're going to interject.
You're really thinking about it.
Oh, I have for 20 years.
You have dedication enough to quit a job because.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a huge respecter of art that don't diss the art, man.
No, that's
no.
Some people just take it and then
I worked on the show called Munto, and the director was such a POS. And he doesn't care about the show, and he didn't care. He was just wanted to make the money, man. And I was arguing with him. He's just a jerk. And I didn't quit Munto, but I directed for him once, and he wanted me to do it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. Sinter Nicholas, the only person who probably cares more than me is Sinter Nicholas. Dude, and he trained me at NYV Post, and we directed a show together called The Weathering Continent. We co-directed that. Okay. It's not a very popular one, but I'm very, very proud of it. And it's a really, really good show. But yeah, as far as localization, and the other interviewer, we were talking about this as well, and I figured this is the same note you're hitting, is also acting style. I no longer, when I first started, I was trying to, the first show I directed was Space Pirate Mito, and I totally localized that in a way that was kind of like Dragon Ball was done by Funimation, and I regret it a little bit. I strayed from the script a lot. I didn't know what I was doing. And then once I got another show, I finally understood how to localize. The show I'm most proud of that I directed was Midori Days, which I did. I feel like I really got that right. But I'm also, I don't believe that just copying the Japanese actor, particularly when it comes to teenage girls and boys, should sound that way anymore. There's a lot of copying of that, and it doesn't. It's disconcerting to me now. I just want them to sound like American teenage boys and girls. Exactly how they're supposed to sound and localize it, but keep the language and the canon correct. You know what I mean?
I've definitely got to learn from Sinter Nicholas too. Yeah, he was really great to interview yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I want to kind of push it over to Pradyumna because he actually had a very different experience with your dub of it. Because you want to explain the story about how you first were exposed to the English dub of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, so I actually grew up with the English dub for Dragon Ball, and
Where were you living?
I first started watching the show when I was in India.
Real quick, I've met several Indian fans who tell me that they show Dragon Ball in English like to millions of kids in India. And I just got invited to appear at a college in India, and I'm thinking about going next year. And I go, what would happen if I went there? And the guy's like, you would be exalted and you would be held above. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm a voice actor. If I read you the email, it's so written that way. We would like to have your exalted esteemed self here at our college. I'm like, it's so sweet, And I hope that wasn't it's just a voice acting habit. Sorry.
It was fine. The English dub for Goku it's highly respected.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
So they would welcome you with open arms.
Yes.
So what I also wanted to say, and you probably already get this question quite a lot, is that you're able to maintain Goku's character throughout even the most stressful vocal situations, like when you're fighting and screaming.
Yeah.
I find that it's kind of difficult to do in certain, in general, trying to maintain character, when you're screaming, shouting. So what kind of vocal training exercises do you do?
I don't do a lot of vocal training exercise because I have a strong background in classical music and brass playing, and a lot of that breath support and lung training and vocal, and I was a singer also, and a choir director, has just become natural. And I've never really been away from the character that long. I guess if I took a 5-year break of not voice acting or playing a musical instrument, I might have to do some vocal exercise. What I do other than vocal exercises, there's a lot of breathing and stretching I do, because the key is vocal breath support and proper technique, which will protect your vocal cords. So for me, as long as I'm doing the proper vocal technique and also paying attention to how my voice is responding and proper monitoring with my headphones. Most people advise against this, but I monitor very loud. And part of it's because I have hearing loss in this ear, not from monitoring loud, because I got sick over 10 years ago and I had a virus in my ear. But part of it's also because if you do this with your hands, you can really hear your voice, and I can make really subtle changes with my voice. And if you can't hear yourself, you can strain your voice because you can't hear the feedback you need to make the subtle vocal cord adjustment. So part of it's how I monitor and my mic technique and how I pay attention to what my voice is doing throughout a session. So it's being aware of all that. And then also, it's really weird. It's called almost like, I've tried to analyze this because people ask me this question. It's almost like on The Matrix where they write a program for a helicopter or whatever, and then they just do it. So when I go in the booth, it's like there's all these rules for playing Goku, and there's all these rules for mic technique and stuff. And then when you hear the beeps, boop, boop, that program gets written, then it all goes out the window, and you're Goku, and it's on, and you just go. And it's just like a pro football player. He's going, okay, I'm going to throw the ball, and I'm doing that. Once it's game time, you're in the zone, and you got to be in the zone every single time.
We have to cut it off.
Yeah, sorry guys.
We're running out of time. Frida, do you want to sign us off real quick?
No, I'm just really glad that I had this opportunity to meet you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
The Indian fans, by the way, my experience with Indian fans, I don't want to diss any other group of people, but they are extremely passionate. Most Indian guys I've met have cried when they're so passionate and so grateful.
They're trying really hard to keep it together.
Yeah, I can tell. It reminded me of the other Indian guys I met who had a hard time keeping it together.
Thank you so much again, Sean. For
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, man. Thank you. Looking at that voiceover class. Or opera singing or something. Yes, nice meeting you. Thank you. I hope to go to India next year. They invited me for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was good to meet you in person. Okay.